So this college quarterback who goes by the name Carson Beck will earn about $4 million in the 2025 season. Now, when we compare this to Bo Nix, who is currently in the NFL, he is going to earn about $960,000 in the 2025 season. This has to be one of the most fascinating things we've ever seen in college football. The fact that players who go to school as student athletes can get paid as much as professional athletes and that much higher than them is absolutely absurd and unheard of. And that is why in today's video, guys, I want to take a deeper look at the NIL deals and the NIL space, how it's actually impacting college football right now, and especially how it's going to impact college football going into the future. So in order to understand the current state of college football and why it's so strange, we got to understand where these guys came from. Because in the past, when we look at college football, we see that players had basically no ways of earning money for the work that they put in. These guys on average were spending 44 hours a week just to be an athlete, just to be able to earn a spot on that team and keep your spot, but they weren't allowed to make a single dime off of the hard work, the risk that they take to play the games that they love. The NCAA kept the amateurism rule around in college football for as long as they could, and this rule basically prohibits college football players from doing anything with their name, image, and likeness. So no matter how much money these corporations and these teams earn off of these players, there was no way these players could earn anything back, and that became a problem as the media grew and as people started to see the plight of these players. People started to realize that being a college athlete is as dangerous as playing in the NFL as well. Guys were risking their lives, getting injuries without actually having a medical insurance, without actually having the school take care of them. All of these things are huge risks to take, especially if you're playing in a sport where your chances of making it to the next level is less than 2%. But at last, there was actually hope for these players because people started to take this to the Supreme Court. The Ed O'Bannon lawsuit against the NCAA, which protested his name, image, and likeness being used in the game without his consent, really paved the way for what we see in college football today.
Our intentions were starting the conversation of players getting paid.
Now, Ed definitely got his wish because a lot of people started to talk about the way college players were treated. And we saw this put into the forefront of the media when Johnny Manziel was taking over college football. This guy was literally revolutionizing the game when he was playing, and a lot of people loved him. He had a lot of fans, a lot of popularity, but he couldn't make any money, any income off of that. So what did he do? He did Johnny Manziel things. He moved on to his own path and actually gained money off of his fame in an illegal manner by signing autographs. They actually ended up filing a whole investigation against Johnny Manziel, and they didn't find anything, but he ended up getting suspended for half a game. Guys, it's absolutely wild what measures the NCAA went through to stop these players from earning their fair share of the work that they were doing. And after the Manziel situation, it took about 8 years before the NCAA finally made the ruling to go for NIL deals, which brings us today, guys, where these players are treated a lot better. They're getting paid money that is comparable to people who are actually in the NFL. This is great enough for these players. They're getting what they deserve. However, there are a lot of issues that come with this, and that's what I want to talk about next, which is some of the reasons why people are going against the NIL deals and why they're thinking it's actually a negative thing that's happening to college football.
NIL is not really what you think it is. All these kids aren't getting NIL. These kids are getting collectives. Okay, collectives is if we took an offering up in this classroom, we passed the bucket like a church, and you put this collection plate, and you put your collective in, and then we say, you know what, we got 10 players up here, and let's divide that. That player right there should get $10. That player right there should get $20. That's a collective.
With the use of the boosters and the collectives, people feel that NIL deals are widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots in college football. Schools with wealthier boosters usually are well funded when it comes to their NIL collectives and can offer usually more lucrative opportunities to their players, making it nearly impossible for a small school to compete with the bigger school. If I'm a quarterback like Bryce Underwood coming out of high school, school, why would I go to a school that doesn't have the means to pay me a whole lot of money? That's why he made a decision to go to Michigan. He made a decision to go to Michigan over LSU, the better weather. I'm just gonna say like the better culture and all that. He chose Michigan solely because of the fact that he's gonna be making more money playing for Michigan, and that has to be a thing that we see as an impact of the NIL space that we're in today. And boom, that brings us to number 2, which is the fact that NIL dues make college football a pay-to-play in disguise, really. If your school has a very good collective, say a school like LSU, compared to a school like Washington, for example, LSU have more brands that they can have their athletes be exposed to and be sponsored by compared to a school like Washington. You, as a school with better boosters and making more money, you have the ability to pay your players more because of that collective feature, even though you're not associated with the university at all. And that brings us on to the number 3 reason why a lot of people are against NIL deals, is that it's straight away from the core purpose of name, image, and likeness as a whole, because it's taking players away from going out there and getting brand sponsorship based on what you're doing on the field, to now relying on a collective, something that is highly influenced by the school that you go to get deals and to make money off of your name, image, and likeness. And that now is giving colleges that have more popularity, more money, better boosters, a huge advantage over smaller colleges, because now it's not based on the player itself, it's based on the school that they go to. That has changed the entire atmosphere and leads to problems like pay to play and unfair recruiting for these colleges.
This is not NIL. This is not the day of NIL. That's what it's supposed to be. But it's collectives. And that's where it went wrong instead of staying right. I wish it was NIL so the kids could earn it, because now you got a ball.
Another huge reason why a lot of people have problems with the NIL space right now in college football, guys, is when we take a look at how NIL itself exploits young athletes. So NIL deals are often celebrated as empowering the athletes, but critics have argued that these young players may not fully understand the contracts that they are signing. And this obviously is when the player is leaving the collective and going out there to make money by signing deals with brands. If you go out and do it yourself, you have a high chance of actually getting scammed and being exploited. But when you go and do it with a school, that gives the school so much power over the entire landscape of college football. So you can choose to either get exploited and go out there and make a deal for yourself, or you can stay with the school, which is what most players are doing, which is leading to this unfair culture. Now, even though there are problems with the current NIL space, we can't ignore the fact that this has completely revolutionized the way people play college sports in a very healthy way. Once we can tame and control this in a healthy manner, I think we have something really good coming into the space. I think once we have the time to understand the change and embrace it as people, as viewers, as players, as athletes, we can see that this is a good thing, but it can be a bad thing if it isn't regulated for the sport like we see today. The NIL space will help players learn financial literacy a lot earlier in their sporting career instead of going straight to the NFL and blowing their cash right there. The NIL will also help athletes who don't make it to the next level actually have a life after playing the game, because we got to understand, sports, specifically football, are gonna stick with you for the rest of your life. Injuries are gonna linger. Your head, CTE, all these things are parts of the game. And I think an overall positive of the entire NIL space right now, the way it's being publicized, it's actually gonna get more and more people interested in playing college sports. Guys, if I was a youngin right now, say I was like 18, 17, and I heard all this going on about college football, of course I'm spending my entire life, I'm more motivated, more dedicated to playing the sport and getting good at it. I think it's only gonna raise the competition of college football and football in general. It's only gonna raise the expectation of what we want to see on the field. That overall is a good for the sport, for the players, for the viewers as a whole.
The college players, they're not relatable anymore. They're taking too much money from the schools. They're not in the schools anymore. It's programs now.
This is day 3 of making this video, y'all. So please like, subscribe, all right? This one is not going to get a lot of views, but it's needed. So why have I just told you about the history of how college football players were treated by the NCAA and how the NIL deals are changing the space right now? Well, that's a great question, because all of that comes together to explain the huge problem that we have right now in college football with the transfer portal. Now, teams right now in college aren't just competing for the best facilities, they aren't just competing for the best education that they can give the players, they're also competing for NIL deals. Like I've said earlier, teams with the best NIL deals obviously have a huge pool to these players, and that makes players want to go into the transfer portal more. And this is not me just saying things, because when we look at college football right now, y'all, we see people like Caleb Williams, who's obviously not in college football anymore, but Caleb Williams left Oklahoma to go to USC because, let's be honest, he would get more sponsorships and he was offered more money in NIL deal packages by USC. Did it work out for him? Yes, he has sponsorships with Beat Bad Dre and all these other companies, which made him very wealthy. The fact that players are increasingly prioritizing immediate financial gains over long-term development is extremely worrying, because this severely hinders the development of players. And you might be asking, yo D, I'm so smart, I finally figured it out. Could this be the reason why quarterback, the hardest position in all of football, isn't being developed well at the college level? Well, yes, I honestly think that's a huge reason. When we see the transfer portal in this new NIL era, we see a lot of players being attracted to the money instead of the program. And Tom Brady have talked about this before. The way to be a good quarterback is to have a good development plan, is to have good people around you, good coaching staff around you to get you to where you need to be. It's not where it pays you the most money.
There used to be college programs. Now there are college teams. You're no longer learning a program, you're learning a playbook. And the program is ultimately, like at Michigan, for me, that was a pro-style program. 5 years I got to learn how to drop back pass, to read defenses, to read coverages, to be coached. I had to learn from being 7th quarterback on the depth chart to moving up to 3rd to ultimately being a starter.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
But whole and behold, we have the NIL era, which takes all of that out of the window. These players don't care about their careers anymore. They're trying to make the money right now. They're thinking very short term, and you can't really blame them. If I had the opportunity to make millions of dollars in college, man, I will do that. I can't guarantee that I'm going to be healthy enough to play in the NFL. I can't guarantee that I'm going to play another football game after the one that I have next week. So it is all understandable. But we have to understand, y'all, that this dynamic ruins a lot for the sport, because not only are smaller teams getting literally effed over, we're looking at the fact that fans are seeing the disloyalty in college football, and that could highly impact their care for the game as well. Fandom is a lot about the team itself, but it's also about the players and the consistent faces that you see. If you have players flip-flopping teams like that, it just seems so disingenuous. It seems so much about the money. It takes away, like I keep saying, that oomph. That's something different about college football.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
The fact that, yes, man, that's my classmate. He chose this school because he likes this school. It takes away that from the game. It just doesn't feel the same anymore. These guys don't want to go through adversities. When we look at the story of Jalen Hurts, where he had to sit for a little bit behind Tua just to learn and have his opportunity to show the world what he can do, and then we compare that to the current space in college football right now, it's completely different, because you don't have guys having the courage and the willingness to sit and learn, to wait for their opportunity. You don't have guys with patience anymore. Everybody wants to go to the bag. Everybody wants to go to the place that's going to pay them the most as quick and as soon as possible. And this undermines the entire development process, the entire reason for why college football at its core should be about, which is preparing players to go to the NFL.
Look at this. Ohio State star freshman just won the championship with Ohio State. Just got offered $4.5 million to enter the transfer portal. Tate, the other receiver, just got an offer too. I think it's $1 million, something like that. And Ohio State fans saying, that's tampering. You can't do that. No. Because when it would happen to other teams, y'all were laughing. With these college players, I want them to get paid. But when it comes to this NIL, this transfer portal, do they really love the school, or they want to go get the bread?
Now, I know. We have people out there saying, oh my God, this is not going to influence anything. All right, these guys, they're going to switch teams and they're not going to have an impact on championships, on huge games. Well, you're wrong. Look at Ohio State right now. Who wouldn't want to be playing for Ohio State right now? They're spending the most when it comes to NIL dues to their players. It's absolutely insane, and this is why everybody wants to play there. If Ohio State wants a player, they get a player, and that has influenced them so much this season to the point that they just won the national championship. So that begs the question, was it fair what they did to win the championship? Was that fair? Because they literally bought that. I'm not gonna sit here, even if I was an Ohio State fan and not a Penn State fan, I wouldn't sit here and say that Ohio State really got that championship the right way. They got that championship in the new way. And that's not to say the new way is bad. I just think the new way is way too new for us to just accept a championship coming out of buying players in college. This system has to be regulated a lot more, because these teams at the end of the day will be ran by billionaires. College football at the end of the day will be decided by money, and that is not what we want. That is not fair. That is not beautiful. That is not competitive. We don't want that. We want actual football. We want student athletes, not athletes, students. Okay, yes, they deserve to get paid, but at the end of the day, we gotta pay them, we gotta reward them in a way that don't deteriorate the integrity of the sport. So let me know all your thoughts down in the comments, y'all, about this topic. But without further ado, yes, man, but we out.